The child embodies our ultimate vision, that every Filipino learner will realize their full potential and ultimately reach their biggest dreams, no matter how high, no matter how hard, through quality education. And as our learners aim to soar, we must continue to elevate our goals. Rising, the kite is our emblem of aspiration to deliver the brand of quality in Philippine basic education. The quadrants of the soaring kite symbolize the key reform areas in forwarding this cause, as we embark on this aggressive reform to yield upskilled teachers, well-developed curriculum, improved learning environment, and responsive multi-stakeholder cooperation. Using the colors of our flag, the logo symbolizes our unity and serves as a reminder that it takes a nation to educate a child. Together, we as a nation will have to move forward and gain more momentum so that our vision of quality basic education for all shall take flight. Sama-sama sa pagsulong ng edukalidad.
Well, hello, Mrs. Morgan. Remember how hard it was to get your students' attention? Oh, Mr. Jeski, any explosive ideas? And you, Mr. Fisher, the world keeps turning, right? Okay, we're past all that, because now we have Microsoft Educator Center. Trainings, courses, webinars, programs, badges, points, certificates. Join now and get yourself ready for the new school year. Teach your best.
Nang sumiklab ang giyera sa Marawi, maraming buhay at kabuhayan ang nawala. Maraming kabahayan at paaralan ang napinsala. Sa kabila ng matinding suliranin, naging matagumpay ang DepEd na mabigyan ang mga mag-aaral ng pagkakataong ipagpatuloy ang edukasyon at muling bumangon sa sitwasyon. Habang naghihintay sa pagkumpuni at pagsasaayos ng mga paaralan, nagkaloob ang DepEd ng mga temporary learning shelters, remedial classes, learning kits, at feeding programs para sa mga displaced learners. Nabigla ang lahat sa pag-alboruto ng Bulkang Taal. Libo-libong pamilya, kabilang ang mga guro at mag-aaral, ang nawalan ng tirahan at mga ari-arian. Mabilis ang naging tugon ng DepEd upang makapagpatuloy sa pag-aaral ang mga apektadong mag-aaral. Sinikap ng mga guro na turuan ang mga mag-aaral na pansamantalang tumuloy sa evacuation center. Tumama sa bansa ang COVID-19 pandemic, dahilan upang maantala ang normal na daloy ng pamumuhay at trabaho sa lahat ng sektor, kabilang na ang kagawaran ng edukasyon. Nang ipatupad ang Luzon lockdown, inilunsad ang DepEd Commons upang tuloy ang pagkatuto ng mga learners habang nasa bahay. Sa kabila ng mabigat na hamon sa ilalim ng new normal, patuloy na nagpunyagi ang DepEd upang maghanap at maghatid ng mga alternatibong pamamaraan upang magpatuloy ang edukasyon sa pinakaligtas at pinakaangkop na paraan. Sa ilalim ng Learning Continuity Plan, layunin ng DepEd na magpatuloy ang edukasyon nang hindi nakokompromiso ang kapakanan at kalusugan ng mga guro at mag-aaral. Isusulong ng DepEd ang tatlong pangunahing layunin: angkop na proteksyon, kaugnay ng mga health standards at safety protocols para sa ligtas na school year, patuloy na edukasyon sa pamamagitan ng blended learning, distance learning at homeschooling na angkop sa kapasidad ng bawat mag-aaral, at mabisang aksyon sa pakikipagtulungan sa lokal na pamahalaan at mga partner organizations upang maihatid ang dekalidad na edukasyon para sa lahat. Bawat DepEd Division ay bumuo rin ng sarili nilang Learning Continuity Plan upang gabayan ang mga guro, mga magulang at mga mag-aaral sa bagong pamamaraan ng pag-aaral gamit ang online, modular at TV and radio-based instructions. Gamit ang iba't ibang learning modalities, nagdaos ng dry run ang mga paaralan sa iba't ibang bahagi ng bansa, katuwang ang mga local government units at mga education partners upang maging handa sa bagong sistema ng edukasyon. Isinagawa rin ang mga pagsasanay at oryentasyon sa mga magulang upang maging epektibong katuwang sa pag-aaral ng kanilang mga anak. Sa anumang hamon o sitwasyon, handa ang DepEd. Handang kumilos, handang tumugon, at handang magserbisyo.
Ang dami ng mga pagsusubok at challenges ang naharap at napagtagumpayan ng ating Department of Education. Tuwing may pagsusubok, priority palagi natin ang ating learners at ang ating mga teachers sa tulong ng parents at saka partners at ang buong bansa. Ngayon, sa hinaharap natin itong new normal na sinasabi nila, matatag ang ating kagawaran, matatag ang DepEd, dahil pinagtibay na tayo ng panahon, kayang-kaya natin ito sa tulong ninyo.
G'day everyone, I'm Mark. As a teacher and a former principal, I know that professional learning often comes at the end of a very long day. But there are exciting, less structured ways to be in the driver's seat of your own lifelong learning. A great place to start is by engaging with our Microsoft Innovative Educator, or MIE, community. This global community is big, in fact it's enormous. Our MIEs love connecting. Monthly tweet meets are global gatherings of inspiring educators around big topics, and their Facebook group acts as a persistent home for discussions and shared activities. Another way teachers are learning within communities is through Microsoft Teams. Now, greater teacher collaboration improves teaching across schools, and Teams is the ultimate platform for a professional learning community. It's open-walled and socially embedded, so you can incorporate your OneNote Staff Notebook PLC and have access to all the goodness of video chat, phone, and collaboration tools. With Immersive Reader built in, it's inclusive and accessible on any device. Your learning community is just a click away. Last tip, our Microsoft Education Centre offers great ways to gain new skills with courses tailored uniquely to your needs. Make it a collaborative experience by picking a MEC course to do together with your peers. And as a bonus, you can practice collaborative learning by exploring a research paper like the Class of 2030 and treat it just like a book club with your colleagues face-to-face or in Teams. The link to that research, it's in the description. Remember, learning is socially embedded. It's best done together for students and for teachers. Happy learning.
2020 brought new beginnings for the Department of Education. Ready to pivot towards attaining quality education, DepEd was hopeful of the challenges ahead of it. But as DepEd continued to work on its commitment, the world suddenly faced a steeper dilemma. Around the globe, countries like the Philippines had to shift their priorities to respond to a public health crisis brought by COVID-19. Schools had to be closed, activities had to be halted, graduation ceremonies had to be canceled, as people were urged to stay at home. A new normal dawned upon us. As soon as DepEd realized the impact of these disruptions in education, it began to proactively craft its learning continuity plan last April to ensure that learning opportunities will still be available. Consulting with partners and advisors through the Education Forum, as well as legislators, teachers, parents, learners, and the general public, DepEd made sure its LCP encompasses the concerns of the whole education sector in responding to the crisis. Its topmost priority being the protection of the health, safety, and well-being of learners, teachers, and personnel. To make informed decisions, DepEd first analyzed relevant data and epidemiological picture for the incoming school year. DepEd also issued guidelines on its required health standards to be adopted in all public and private schools and DepEd offices following DOH and IATF protocols. It covers 4 COVID-19 mitigation objectives, namely, to increase physical and mental resilience, reduce transmission, reduce contact, and reduce duration of infection. The LCP also outlined how learning continuity will be ensured. It streamlines the K-12 curriculum into the most essential learning competencies and allows the use of distance learning, homeschooling, and blended learning modalities. Since conducting face-to-face classes will be a risk in most areas, DepEd has anchored its delivery of education to modular, online, TV and radio, or a combination of all. Guided by teachers, modular learning will allow learners to use self-learning modules in a format applicable to learners' capacity. In online distance learning, teachers will facilitate and engage learners' participation through the internet, whether synchronous or asynchronous. TV and radio-based instructions, on the other hand, are converted lessons fit for the broadcast medium. The LCP assures that all our learners, including our SPED, ALS, Madrasa students, can still access education even within the confines of their homes, and ensures that their household capacity will not hinder their right to education. To make this possible, our joint Brigada Eskwela and Oplan Balik Eskwela is assisting the preparations for the rollout of the LCP. On May 8, the LCP was approved by the IATF. The President also gave it his full support and expressed his commitment to meeting the financial demands of its execution. The implementation of the LCP will not be easy. It is not a perfect plan, and complications can be expected along the way. But extraordinary times call for extraordinary and proactive measures, and the Department of Education is ready to address the challenges along the way with the help of our national and local government, partners, parents, and learners. As one nation, learning opportunities shall be available in this brave new world for our Filipino children.
When you need the focus to be on you and not whatever that guy's doing, open Teams.
namin ng buong komunidad niya! Subukan mo! Tutal na wasak na naman namin ang lahat ng ari-arian niyo!
Sa totoong buhay, totoo ang pinsala ng giyera. Mula noon hanggang ngayon. Para limitahan ang kalupitan ng giyera, nagkaisa ang mga bansa 70 taon na ang nakalipas upang itaguyod ang Geneva Conventions. Ang Geneva Conventions ay kinikilala ng buong mundo bilang bahagi ng international humanitarian law na nagtatakda ng mga patakaran ng giyera o the rules of war. Ayon dito, huwag gawing target ang mga sibilyan at kanilang mga ari-arian. Tratuhin sa makataong paraan ang mga nabilanggo at protektahan ng mga doktor, nurse at mga ospital para paglingkuran ang mga sugatan at may sakit saan man panig sila nagmula. Alamin ang Geneva Conventions. Bisitahin ang www.therulesofwar.org.
Hi guys! So I just came from a meeting and I was just told that I would be leading this fundraising concert for International Students Day. And I have to present the plan to the school board next week. Okay, I'm going to need some help. Let me create a team space and invite my dream team. Sia, she knows all about the budgeting and stuff. Ivan, he knows all the kids from the performing arts group. Aisha, she worked on getting sponsorship last year. And Sam, because he's so cute. Let me lay out all tasks in Planner and kick things off. So, I'm almost done with my event concept and inspiration board. I just need Ivan to do some final tweaks and plug in the repertoire. Budget from Sia? Check. Sponsorship plan? Check. Done! Whew! When you start using Microsoft Teams, teamwork really does become easier. So now I'm heading over to present the plan to the school board. Wish me luck!
De Luna,
Present!
Herrera,
Present!
Valera,
Present!
Handa ba tayo sa school year 2020?
Present!
Ngayong taon, ang edukasyon tuloy pa rin. Sa tulong ng DepEd, mga guro at mga magulang, ang handang isip, handa bukas. Tuloy-tuloy ang pag-aaral. May mga modules para sa iba't ibang antas. Sa government TV, maging sa radyo. Mahalagang ligtas ang ating mga estudyante at guro. Kaya kahit nasa bahay, tuloy ang edukasyon. Kung tulong-tulong, may paraan, may aralan. Handang isip, handa bukas. Bisitahin ang DepEd Philippines sa Facebook at ang deped.gov.ph.
If you spend more time tracking down files than actually working on them, open Teams.
The COVID-19 pandemic has brought unprecedented changes to our usual ways of living. But the Department of Education remains unfazed by these challenges to fulfill the mission of Sulong Edukalidad, the rallying call for national effort to deliver quality basic education to all Filipinos, which involve aggressive reforms in the 4 key areas: the K-12 curriculum review and update, improving the learning environment, teachers upskilling and reskilling, and engagement of stakeholders for support and collaboration to move forward together as we prepare the education system for the future. The call for Sulong Edukalidad will continue and we have built the framework of the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan, or the BELCP, to put the needs of the learners at top priority. DepEd's BELCP is the major response and commitment to protect the health, safety, and well-being of learners, teachers, and personnel. The plan aims to provide opportunities to continue education even in these trying times with a BELCP in place, supported by an unprecedented number of diverse stakeholders from the academe, media, industry groups, NGOs, business and private individuals. Sulong Edukalidad will be able to sustain the aims in its reform for quality basic education. In our journey towards quality education, we have established the 4 pillars of aggressive reforms from the start, and we have been continuing to progress in these pillars. In improving the learning environment, we took action in the construction and rehabilitation of school buildings, ensured the availability of learning materials and equipment, and prioritized our last mile schools. The challenges of the pandemic also brought to light the urgent need to upgrade our ICT infrastructure to service the needs of education. In terms of the teachers upskilling and reskilling, we were able to establish more innovative professional standards for teachers and school heads. We have aligned the professional development of teachers with their career progression to track their development as part of the National Educators Academy of the Philippines transformation. With the launch of the Education Futures program, where we will be focusing on innovative actions and solutions to improve the state of our education, we are now more than ready to start a new journey and continue our fight for quality education for all Filipino learners. Finally, we've given high importance to the engagement of stakeholders for support and collaboration. In support of this, we have convened the Philippine Forum for Accessible Quality Basic Education, or the Education Forum, which will leverage other partnerships for education quality and strengthen partnership with the Philippine Normal University as the country's National Center for Teacher Education. The department has also been developing a professional development program for teachers and school leaders in order to equip them with the skills, materials, and data that will allow them to help their students prepare for PISA 2022. This intervention consists of the following components: online training for teachers and school leaders, development of learning materials and practice tests for students, deepening the analysis of the PISA 2018 results, and supporting school-level action research. Now that the year is about to end, our commitment to Sulong Edukalidad will continue and will be far from being gone. With a lot at stake, considering our new knowledge and experience from this year's challenges, we are equipped to face a new future. As we head on to the future where we will face many challenges and uncertainties, the department will always be the guardian of every Filipino learner's right to education.
Sino ba ang hindi naapektuhan? Sino ba ang hindi nag-alala? Sino ba ang hindi nalito? Lahat tayo ay naapektuhan. Lahat tayo ay nag-aalala. Lahat tayo ay nalito. Dahil binago ng pandemyang dulot ng COVID-19 ang paraan ng pamumuhay ng lahat ng mga Pilipino saan mang sektor ka nabibilang. Tumigil ang panandalian ang ating mga nakagawian. Tumigil ang lahat ng uri ng transaksyon. Tumigil ang lahat ng operasyon ng mga paaralan. Nakalilito. Nakakaba. Paano na ang kinabukasan ng mga kabataan? Paano na tayo sa hinaharap? Opisyal na nilulunsad ng Kagawaran ng Edukasyon sa pangunguna ng Office of the Undersecretary for Curriculum and Instruction ang DepEd Teaches. Ito ay isang online na programa na gagabay sa mga guro, tagapangasiwa, magulang at mag-aaral hinggil sa mga pagbabago sa batayang edukasyon ngayong new normal. Ang DepEd Teaches ay angkla sa sulong edukalidad na nakatuon sa apat na pangunahing pangangailangan ng mapunyaging reforma tungo sa makalidad na pagtuturo at pagkatuto. Una, pagre-review at pagsasapanahon ng kurikulum ng K-12. Ikalawa, pagpapaunlad ng kapaligirang pampagkatuto. Ikatlo, paglinang ng mga bagong kasanayan sa mga guro. At ang ikaapat, ang pakikipag-ugnay sa mga stakeholder para sa suporta at kolaborasyon. Sa pamamagitan ng virtual learning platform, ang DepEd Teaches ang magsisilbing bukas na komunidad ng pagsasanay na titipon sa mga guro, tagapamunong pang-edukasyon at sa sinumang may pagnanais sa pagtataguyod ng kalidad na edukasyon sa bansa at sa pagtagumpay ng bawat Pilipinong mag-aaral. Ang mga opisyal, education specialist, learning content expert at outstanding teacher ng DepEd ang magiging tagapanayam na magbabahagi ng kanilang kaalaman at kasanayan sa kurikulum, pagtuturo at pagkatuto, pagtataya at lahat ng kaugnay na mahalaga sa proseso ng pagtuturo at pagkatuto sa new normal. Bilang mga frontliner ng classroom, inaasahang magiging aktibo ang mga guro sa programang ito. Ang mga tema at paksa ay angkop sa kanilang pangangailangan at konteksto sa pamamagitan ng accessible na platform, ang social media. Sumali na sa OUCI family sa DepEd Teaches kung sama-sama mapahuhusay pa ang mga guro, kung sama-sama higit na malilinang natin ang mga mag-aaral.
It's a new day and it's a new episode. Add in the positive thoughts, subtract out the negative energy. Make it all equal to another fantastic episode only here in DepEd Teaches. Good afternoon to all and good afternoon to our dear teachers. We are live right now on our official Facebook pages, the DepEd Philippines, DepEd Tayo, and the DepEd Teaches. You can also watch us on DepEd Philippines YouTube channel. If you have not followed and liked our page yet, it's time now to click that button and share DepEd Teaches to all your friends. Hello, Miss Anna. How are you? Last week, we had another successful presentation about positive use of ICT in the context of 21st century skills. What do you look forward in today's episode, Ma'am Anna?
Hello, everyone. So it's going to be another amazing day ahead of us, just like how a beautiful Thursday afternoon is incomplete without DepEd Teaches. DepEd Teaches is incomplete without you, dear teachers. Once again, we welcome you all in this 12th episode of DepEd Teaches under the theme Content, Knowledge, and Pedagogy. Good afternoon, Sir July. So you asked me what we will be offering to our viewers today. One question that we've been very eager to answer in this theme that covers episodes 11 to 14 is about lesson preparation and delivery. Specifically, what is the best way to teach our learners? Because there are plethora of strategies we've learned so far from our schooling, webinars attended, and we can also do some searching online. But then, which among these strategies really work best to the kind of learners we have? And which strategy does not work? What do you think about it, Sir July?
I also have the same question in mind, Ma'am Anna, because as much as content is important, it must be coupled with sound pedagogy. Teachers cannot simply start the lesson without careful planning and utmost consideration about the learners and his or her environment, thus leading to these big questions. How can we ensure that learning takes place in the classroom or even at home? Will they learn from the strategy that we use? And which strategies are effective and appropriate in particular modality? These are the questions that we must always reflect and think about when we do lesson planning.
My thoughts exactly. We might be very confident in teaching the content, but perhaps it does not match with the instructional approach and method that we are using. So if there is a mismatch, that's going to be a problem because it's just a waste of time and energy if we are using ineffective, inappropriate, or unfounded techniques. Good thing here in DepEd Teaches, we have an opportunity in today's episode to learn about some research-based principles of teaching and learning to enhance instructional practice. Sounds exciting, right, Sir July?
Indeed, we must equip ourselves with the right strategies based on research. We want to make sure that our teaching and learning process is anchored on sound principle. And so, this will be the main focus of our presentation today. I hope by this time everyone is ready, and I'm sure we are all excited to listen now. So let's keep the ball rolling, and we are privileged to introduce to you our resource speaker. Our STEAM speaker today is Director Cristito Acero Eco, who is currently the Assistant Regional Director of DepEd Region 7, Central Visayas. He rose from ranks when he started his colorful career journey as secondary classroom teacher. He became a school principal and a vocational school administrator. Later on, he was promoted to Assistant Schools Division Superintendent and then to Schools Division Superintendent, and later on, OIC Assistant Regional Director of DepEd Region 5, Bicol Region. Director Eco was a recipient of various international scholarships and trainings, such as a study tour on school improvement planning at Melbourne, Australia, enhancing TVET policies and practices through evaluation research at Simeo Voctec Brunei Darussalam, and also current trends in learning and working at Sydney, Australia, and Climate Reality Project at Pittsburgh, USA.
Director Echo, as a passionate public servant, coupled with his work principle, thinking beyond the box, he developed and implemented various innovative projects that contributed to the office efficiency and effectiveness, such as swimming pool in the sea, Bangka ng Buhay project, establishment of Catbalogan City Agro-Industrial School, in which all senior high school students are provided with free board and lodging and livelihood upon graduation, first in Region 8, automated grading and report generation system for classroom teachers, and enhanced computerized office system or ecosystem. For his notable accomplishments and contributions to the agency, he received various national awards like the 2004 National Most Outstanding School Paper Advisor and 2017 Gawad Career Executive Service Presidential Awardee of the Career Executive Service Board. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Assistant Regional Director of Region 7, Director Cristito Acero Eco.
Good afternoon, Hi everyone. Good afternoon to our viewers and good afternoon to our staff and office, also staff of the central office who is facilitating this very laudable initiative of ensuring that our teachers, our frontliners are equipped with proper competencies, knowledge about how we're going to ensure delivery of quality education for our learners. And of course, I personally would like to extend my sincere appreciation for the privilege given to me by the organizer to be part of this very laudable initiative. This afternoon, my dear colleagues in the Department of Education, I'll be sharing to you my experiences and other notable relevant experiences related to the topic that we will discuss this afternoon in response and to answer the prior questions raised by our facilitator. Particularly this afternoon, I'll be discussing to you on research-based pedagogies and teaching strategies for distance learning. As we all know, a year already ago, we have we are saddened by the pandemic, or what we call COVID-19. No, with the COVID-19, there are a lot of things happen, and commonly we now call the situation as the new normal. No, in various areas. So in this slide, as you will notice, ladies, my dear colleagues, I am showing to you the illustration on the left side of your screen. It is about the COVID virus, and on the right side is about what happened, no? when we are how we responded, no? Particularly the education department on how we are going to ensure that education will still continue. So on the left side is the COVID virus, but we have set up, no? We have worked together internationally. In fact, in the Philippines and the entire archipelago, we have stormed, no, the challenge of COVID pandemic. So pandemic here at the left side, and it is equivalent to distance learning. Our response, our answer to pandemic is distance learning, and that was actually formalized by the issuance of DepEd Order Number 12 by the Office of the Secretary of the Department of Education, our dear Secretary, Ma'am Liling Briones, as our proactive action in response to the challenge that we faced a year ago. And with that, we are able to adopt the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan for school year 2020-2021. And the intent, no, of that DepEd order is to ensure continuity of education, and part of the effort of ensuring continuity of education is we're able to reduce the learning competencies by just looking at the most essential learning competencies, and at the same time we have defined the learning delivery modalities, which we call distance learning. So this afternoon, as reflected in that policy of DepEd, we are going to adopt the 3 learning delivery modalities. We call them modular distance learning, the online distance learning, TV and radio-based instructions and instruction. And this 3 learning delivery modality actually is a breakdown of what we generally call distance learning. And in the implementation of any distance learning, properly and on the expected outcome or result of as expected by the curriculum. So here this afternoon we'll have to discuss thoroughly on the pedagogy and the strategies side by side, no, on how to ensure that our learners really are learning. Our learners are really able to grasp the necessary knowledge and concepts, and at the same time develop the competency or skills that should be developed among them. So pedagogy must be fully understood by us, no, as educator. That pedagogy encompasses, among others, teaching strategies, approaches, methodology, models, styles, behavior, devices, process and attitude, and teaching aids. These are part, no, of the bigger pedagogy or teaching pedagogy. No? But in general, allow me to remind everyone that there is no best teaching strategy, no? Because the teaching strategy would only be effective depending on the kind of the learners that we have, and also the capacity of the learners to absorb, to adapt to a certain teaching methodology. That is why, as a teacher, we should have to carefully study. We should have to carefully understand, no, the nature of our learners, their strengths, their weaknesses, their capabilities. So by knowing them, we're able to define the right approach, the right strategy, the right methodology that we will adopt for that specific group of learners. And would like also to extend our discussion on how are we going to discriminate, no, pedagogy and methodology, because as I mentioned a while ago, teaching methodology or teaching strategy is only one, no, among the many items within the pedagogy. So here in my next slide, I'm showing to you what's the difference, no, of pedagogy and teaching strategies. So just to make sure now we fully understand the two phrases, no, two items. So pedagogy here encompasses, among others, as I mentioned, teaching strategies, approaches, methodologies, models, styles, and so on and so forth. While teaching strategy, it's about the specific thing that we will do in order that learning, no, will happen. We have, for instance, the what we call the old one, the correspondence model, or what we call now the modular, no, the modular approach, where learners are given the hard copy, the module, the self-learning activities to facilitate learning in the absence of physically of the teacher, because this is a distance learning. And the multimedia model, no, the print, the audio, and the video, no. Now we call it TV-based or radio-based, but we have also here the tele-learning model. And this is about the broadcast, the radio, and video conferencing, and also the flexible learning model, which we call interactive multimedia approach, or it's the online or internet-based resources, or computer-aided or computer ICT-aided learning. And this next one is about the intelligent flexible learning model, and this is about a system, no, where there is a portal like what we have in DepEd. No, we have our DepEd Commons. Learners can access anytime various learning materials for them to easily, you know, access the various learning materials to facilitate for their effective learning. So my dear colleagues, when we speak of pedagogy, it encompasses teaching methodology, models, behavior, and in general, it is called the profession, the teaching profession. It's about teaching learning, no? While when we speak of teaching strategies, specific things that we do to ensure learning for our learners. And with that, with our thorough research, we're able to discover, we're able to found, no? We found 6 effective teaching strategies for distance learning, no? These are the following. We have the spacing, interleaving, retrieval practice, concrete examples, elaborating, and dual coding. Let me emphasize to you that we would like to embark first on on the various distance learning strategy before we proceed with the research-based teaching strategy, because right now we are adapting distance learning. So for all of us who are here, we might have not read, no, or maybe we have been already practicing or doing these 6 things in the classroom. In fact, in our curriculum, but for purposes of really ensuring that we really have common understanding, allow me to discuss to you specific things about spacing, interleaving, retrieval, practice, concrete examples, elaboration, and dual coding. So these are the 6 effective distance learning strategy that are emerging right now. This is based on Megan Someraki research of 2020. So how spacing happened in a distance learning environment? Okay, so how it happened, how it is being done. Okay, it says before we go with the specific strategy, allow me to emphasize that distance learning, this 6 distance learning that we will tackle, that I will share to you later, promotes learning in many situations. So it's diverse, no? In any situation, it can be adapted, and it also promote long-term durable learning, which is very important, no? The reason actually why we are venturing on education is to ensure that there is learning. There is learning, not only simple learning, but long-term and durable learning, meaning the learning that is authentic. No? That's the other term of that phrase, to ensure authentic learning. And third, very flexible. Of course, since it's a distance learning approach, so it should be flexible. These 6 strategies are heavily investigated for decades, no? For everyone. It's been utilized for decades, and in fact, it was subjected to various investigations and researches. And there are a lot of documents and evidence that will prove that these 6 strategies for distance learning are effective in variety of situations, particularly on distance education. So how are we going to deliver, no, distance learning? Now, right now, it's common, no. We have, if we use the internet-based education or technology-based, no, technologically aided distance learning. If we use the internet, we can make use also of what we call the synchronous or virtual and remote or asynchronous distance education. So this is now common, no? The synchronous, virtual, remote, or asynchronous distance learning. With these three major ways, no? By using technology, so we can adapt the 6 strategies I mentioned a while ago. So let's go to the details of spacing. How spacing is being done, no, by a teacher in a classroom. So and why we need to adapt them, no? So spacing, according to Someraki, it's similar to what will spreading out of learning opportunities over time. Meaning, you'll have to distribute, no, spread the learning opportunities. It should not be compact, because remember, this is distance learning. Teacher is not around. Teacher is not always there with the learner. So the approach is supposedly self-learning, no? The learner should learn by his own self. So it should be spread, no, all throughout over time. And according to Someraki, that the 30-minute study is more effective than the 2.5 hours in one day. So that's the principle why they said it should be spread. There must be spacing. So with this, students are given the opportunity to have their own schedule, what we call here, which we call blocking of time. No, they should have to have specific schedule. Should have to block the time when we are using here spacing, meaning that teacher should facilitate so students or pupils are able to come up with their own schedule. So with spacing, no, with spacing, we avoid too much time for a specific topic, a specific subject to our learners, because according to the study, as I said a while ago, it is more effective, no? If the learner will just focus for 30 minutes for a certain lesson or for a certain thing. Then next is interleaving. Okay, interleaving means jumbling up ideas. Traditionally, we do not like the jumbling of ideas, which means we will introduce a lot of things to our learners. But according to the study, it is effective. Maybe on the first time that the learner will use the approach, maybe he'll commit some mistakes, errors. But mind you, my dear colleagues, commission of mistakes and errors actually is strengthened, no? And actually ensure authentic learning, because learners learn a lot on that experience. So that is interleaving, meaning if we will try to not only let the learner focus on one concept or topic, but should have varied topics or concepts that should be introduced to them. Typically, it leads to, as I said a while ago, in math, for example, students learn more when they solve many different types of problems, especially during practice. No, so therefore, with this approach, the learner will retain their knowledge much longer, no, compared to only one example, only one concept. Then there is no authentic and durable learning, as mentioned. Then, if we give the students the assignments, we have to require them to work on material that is both new and old, meaning the material should be both new and old, because we want them to experience, to compare what was then, no, the prior knowledge that they have and the new thing that they have to undertake. No? If you use a video lecture, then the discussion or discussion online, the discussion must be posted on board, no? Meaning there must be some questions. The teacher should post questions on their discussion board, maybe in the chat box, no? So students are able to read it early and integrate the concept, the knowledge that they learn across other topic. No? So that is also how we use the interleaving, meaning, like for instance, in physics, chemistry, for instance, or physics, heat. No, when we apply heat, when you apply something, a flame, then heat will be produced. Okay, then the heat has specific measure. Now, if we apply it to home economics about cooking, home economics is another medium, but we have to do the interleaving. No, we have to explain the impact, the effect of the heat that we produce, that we set up, then the effect of the heat to the food that you are cooking. No, so that is what we call interleaving. You do not just simply introduce one concept, but you are trying to introduce another things based on the current concept that you are presenting. So kumbaga, this is the concept, then the possible application of this concept is this one. Okay, so doing that, learner will gain more authentic learning, because he's able to concretize, no, what really is the use of this flame, of this particular fire, to some other things, no, and apply it in the real life situation. Then next is retrieval practice. This is common, no, to all teachers. When we say retrieval practice, we try to facilitate learning of the learners on their prior knowledge, meaning we're trying to let them recall, no, what they have learned. We're trying to facilitate, no, to confirm, to make sure that they really absorb, no, that there is something retained, no, of their prior knowledge, of their prior of the prior concepts that the teacher had introduced. No, this is retrieval. This is called retrieval practice. Now, for distance learning, because we're speaking of distance learning, of course, when we give quiz, that is one of the many approaches on retrieval practice. We give quiz, but when we give quiz, not anymore the traditional way we give quiz in a classroom, but the quiz should be something, an application, no, of the concepts to real life situation. No, and that's how we adapt, no, in terms of retrieval practice, because we would like to make sure no, that the learner really learn in the on the lesson, on the previous lesson. Another one is, we can also ask the learner to write down on a blank sheet of paper things that they learn, no, and at the same time elaborate that based on their own understanding. No, meaning the focus is about recalling, no, and at the same time measuring their understanding of the concept that they learn and the application of the concept to real life situation, which become useful in ensuring authentic learning. And the key is that they should bring the information to mind and from memory. So the key here is to let the student or the learner recall, no, the information from their mind, no, from their memory, and write it down. Okay, that is what we call by retrieval practice. The key reminder here is we do not have to require the learners to recall everything. No? That's the traditional thing. But what we would like to know is for the learners, if the learners are able to decipher the bigger meaning of the concept that they learned prior, and the concepts that we have introduced to them prior to that particular activity on quiz, or maybe asking them to write something about the certain topic or certain lessons that we have shared to them. Okay, so retrieval practice has or can be, no, performed in many ways, no, like giving them quiz, and also the what we call establishing a question bank or quiz bank, no, questionnaire bank, where you'll have to pull your questions in a box or maybe in a container. Then the learner will have to pick one question at a time, then they'll have to write their answer. So this is one of the many approaches in terms of retrieval practice, no, and the learner are given also the opportunity to draw another, no, if he is not satisfied with his output, he can draw another question, then he can prepare his own answer, no, based on the second question that he picked. Then the teacher will record the score, the higher score of the two quizzes or the two questions or of the two answers that the learner give or deliver relative to the activity. Next is on examples. Well, this is common to all of us, no? I will not elaborate much on these things, but allow me to emphasize that when we are teaching the learner how to save money, when you are traveling, of course, you should not use plane, no? You should not use airplane, no? I should have to introduce something. Okay? It's example, no? If they want to save, so they can commute, okay? And if they want to save, traveling from one place to another, because this is by example, so they can take another option or transport means of transportation. So learner will have a concrete idea of the things that we are trying to teach them. Then elaboration, which is also common to all of us, no? Where we ask the learners the question on how and why, no? So meaning this is about the higher order thinking skills development by asking the learners about the higher order thinking question, HATS question of how and why. So learners will learn how to elaborate things, no, based on their experience, based on their knowledge, based on their readings. So this is elaboration. And if you use this one online, of course, you'll have to find strategies on a virtual approach. How are we going to ensure that we are adapting elaboration approach in distance learning? And coding, dual coding, this is also so far common, no? But our learners, our listeners here, our teachers should study thoroughly how dual coding is done. But the simple approach of dual coding is you're presenting an information, and at the same time you're also supporting the information with visuals or pictures. Okay, like for instance, the slide I'm presenting to you, no, dual coding on the left side of the left side of the screen of the PowerPoint, there is an illustration. It's something like that. No? I have here the information, then it is supported by an illustration or pictures or diagram. The beauty of this is there are learners who really who learn things when supported by illustrations or figures. So it's easy for them to decipher. No? What's the meaning? What's the meaning of the information that we're presenting vis-a-vis the illustrations or diagrams or pictures that we attach. Next is on research-based approaches for distance learning. So what I discussed to you actually are the 6 distance learning strategies that are known to be effective based on research. Okay, so we have the dual coding, we have the spacing, we have the dual coding, we have the recall. So the 6 strategies, no, distance learning strategies are spacing, interleaving, so para ma-recall, retrieval practice, then we have concrete example, then we have dual coding, and we have the so-called elaboration. So these are the 6 effective strategies in distance learning. Now, how are we going to integrate research-based approach for distance learning? So knowing the 6 strategies, how are we going to integrate research-based approach? Okay, so please remember that when you introduce research-based approach, you're at the same time trying to develop various strategies on science skills, science process skills. Okay, so which means integrating research-based approach for distance learning means a lot. No, while you're teaching a concept, you're at the same time supposedly teaching, developing scientific skills, and at the same time you're introducing another strategy for the learners to learn concepts or master skills or competencies. So I am showing to you one of the examples of the research-based approach. Okay, it's called inquiry-based learning. If this is common to all of us, there are a lot of research-based approaches for distance learning, but I choose this one as example, as basis for our discussion, so we're able to hopefully comprehend how inquiry-based learning is done, then how it can be integrated, it can be used as a strategy for distance learning. Okay, so inquiry-based learning basically develops 5 competencies. This is asking, okay, the process, the learners are developed to ask questions on various things, on the topic, on the concept, on the things that they are studying. Okay, and second competency that we are developing among learners is they're able to develop that skill of being inquisitive, investigate. They're able to develop skill to plan. and read, and of course, research on something on various platforms, maybe internet, no, and maybe if we still have the library, then they can do some research in the library. Third, they're taught on how to be creative if we use the inquiry-based learning, because through inquiry-based learning, the learners are supposed to create something out of what we have introduced as teacher. And next is learners are able to develop their reasoning skills because they're going to discuss what they have discovered, what they have created, what's the result of their experiment, and so on and so forth. So they're able to share and they're able to report, and therefore they're able to think. No, so there are various faculties that are at the same time developed if you will use the inquiry-based learning as a strategy for distance learning. Then they're able to reflect, no, and revise and rethink and evaluate. Now, these are skills that are developed when we use the inquiry-based learning. So therefore, if we use research-based approaches for distance learning, we develop the learner various competencies, various skills that are needed, no, in terms of science, in terms of exploring, and reasoning, and a lot more. Okay, so I said I choose inquiry-based learning approach as one of the examples, no, of research-based approach for distance learning, but we have a lot of strategies or approaches for distance learning that can be utilized as research-based approach. We have the setting objectives. If we are able to develop the skills of the learners on how to set objectives, to develop their own objectives, maybe their personal goals, no, and others, then they're already adopting a research-based approach. No? Cooperative learning here, not physically because we are on a distance learning, but we can still adapt cooperative learning by using various platforms like in the Teams. No, they can create their own group or channel. Then they'll discuss there on that specific channel, give them topics and other activities so they're able to work together as a team. So that's cooperative learning. Giving them some group work, group assignment, no, or group project. Summarizing and note taking is one of the research-based approaches. In fact, in the past, we do not appreciate, no, or we do not even consider this as an approach. But actually, summarizing and note taking is one of the best approaches. Like for instance, you assign the learner to read something, then do summary, and or watch a movie or an event, then prepare notes on their observations. So this is already what we call research-based approach for research-based approach. Next is on generating and testing hypotheses. So this is more on research and science. And inquiry-based teaching, concept mapping. Well, concept mapping I think is not new for all of us, no? Where the learners will be facilitated on how to create a concept map from a certain issue, maybe, then why, another why here. That is mapping. And higher level questioning skills. Well, this is also one of the effective research-based approach, because in here the learners are developed onto how their faculties onto how to ask various questions, no, questions that are not necessarily open-ended, but questions that need some explanation or detailed elaboration of a particular thing. okay, which help the learners learn a lot, no, and come up with what you call authentic learning. Individualized instruction is also classified under research-based approach and learning feedback. So the session conducted by the teacher to give the learners the feedback on his performance, no, on his behavior, on his task is already considered as research-based approaches. Then you have developing high expectation for its learner, which can be done by sitting, allowing them to define what they want to achieve in life, what they want to achieve for that specific year, particularly on their learning side, their education side, then eventually what they want in the future. If they're able to make all these things, sit up, write, maybe, and produce all this, it's already what we call an approach called as research-based approach. Then comparison matrix, very common in the KWL chart, the response notebooks. So I only choose 14 because these 14 are actually familiar to almost all of us. But there are a lot. I think there are 30 plus research-based approaches that we can use in the teaching learning process, particularly for distance learning. So, my dear colleagues, if you're able to, integrate these things like distance learning, considering the pedagogy and the teaching strategies for distance learning, then the contents, the strategy that we will use for the learners will adapt research-based approaches, will eventually learners will become critical thinker, will become will possess scientific skills, and eventually will be developed. They'll become holistically developed, and the most important thing is for our learners to have that authentic learning, because what we are teaching them through our curriculum supposedly are useful in terms of their daily lives. We're training them to become better citizens. We're training them to become holistically developed person. That is actually the bigger goal of our education, of our curriculum. Okay, so in summary, all those things that I've shared to you this afternoon would actually promote long-term learning. Okay, and that is one of our goals and objectives. When we teach, when we introduce something to the learners, we want all those things to retain, and for them to have that bank, of full of knowledge, and eventually in the future, when they need it, they can make use of it in their real life situation. Okay, so this is probably, but actually the strategies I presented is not easy, but these are all effective according to study, which means for a certain strategy to be effective, it should not be easy. Okay, so there must be some level of difficulty, so it will impact on the creation of knowledge in the individual learners, at the same time making it last in them. Okay, so but keep in mind that of all the strategies that we have, implementing those strategies when you implement the strategies, you have to highlight this with the learners, meaning the learners should fully understand, why we will adapt this, and also the learners should have that knowledge that this is for the first time. They might find difficulty, but it's not that difficult that they cannot tackle. At least the teacher should be flexible enough, especially when you use this one for the first time. I myself, as a classroom teacher, when I venture on new teaching strategy, I should be flexible. When the learners are finding that the strategy difficult, then we should be flexible. So learners would crave for that strategy. Meaning the experience for the strategy that we are using should not only be pleasing but challenging. That's the thing that we should have to consider when you adapt a new teaching strategy for learners. It is expected that for the first time they'll find it difficult, but what is important there is that difficulty should not discourage them. Instead, the difficulty that they encounter should inspire them. Should challenge them. So they'll crave, so they'll adapt it, so they'll embrace it, and they'll love it. And if you reach into that particular situation, then you're assured of authentic learning. That the learning, the gain from that strategy would be durable and lasting. So what we should always bear in mind is we have to really care about what can remember and apply in the future. So that is very essential for us as learning facilitators, as teachers. We are teaching them things because we want them to be prepared, to be ready for the future. That's the basic thing that we should have to understand as a learner. Otherwise, we are feeding them not the right education or the right competencies. So which means that the concepts that you are introducing right now should be usable in the coming years. It should not be obsolete, or it should be applicable when they get out from the school, when they become somebody in the future. Okay, so those strategies should, as I said, should feel difficult, But again, I repeat, and I would like to emphasize, it should not be difficult that the students cannot do them. But teachers should be flexible enough and make sure that the difficulty would challenge the learners. It will not discourage the learners, but the learners should be challenged. And not getting everything perfectly right, but at least they'll feel that somewhat they are successful. So this is very important, because sometimes teachers tend to be perfectionist, and sometimes teachers always demand for the for the best answer from the learners. Okay, but with this principle, we should have to remind ourselves that we should not always claim perfect responses from the learners. The moment they fail, supposedly they learn. The moment they fail, supposedly they learn something from us, and that is very important as a teacher. Okay, so finally, it says here, God teaches. Good teachers are the reason why ordinary students dream to do extraordinary things. Good teachers are the reason why ordinary students dream to do extraordinary things. So from DepEd Region 7, Central Visayas, from the office of the Regional Director Celestianity Jimenez, this is Cristito Eco, the Assistant Regional Director of DepEd Region 7, and from us, from the bottom of our hearts, daghang salamat, payong hapon, mabuhay, sa 7, una ang bata, Permi. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much and congratulations on such wonderfully vivid presentation, Director Echo. We have learned the various strategies used for distance learning, their implications and effectiveness. We hope our teachers have learned from these strategies and will be able to apply in their respective delivery of distance learning instruction to our learners. And now we remind our viewers to share your takeaways by telling us what you have learned, relearned, and unlearned in today's episode. Don't forget to use the hashtag I support DepEd Teaches and hashtag DepEd Teaches episode 12. So at this point, we again request our viewers to please answer in the comment section by completing the following STEM phrases which are shown on the screen now. May I read to you the phrases to complete? First, today I learned about blank. Second, it is good to relearn that blank. And finally, what I must unlearn is blank. Again, please write your answers by completing these phrases in the comment section of our Facebook live streaming page.
All right. So again, thank you so much, Director Echo. It can have been anything but difficult to discuss such critical topic, yet the presentation positively made everybody think. Once again, thank you so much. So to our viewers, just keep on sharing your insights here in DepEd Teaches comment section. And more so, you can post your learning on your social media accounts like your personal Facebook page and Twitter to answer our exit ticket about what you've learned, relearn, and unlearn. Okay, so few announcements. For episodes 11 to 14, we will only have a single registration and evaluation. And for you to receive your certificates of appearance and participation, you must pass the evaluation. So you must watch all the episodes under the theme Content Knowledge and Pedagogy, which are episodes 11 to 14, for you to be able to answer all the questions. All right, so just keep tuning here and don't skip any episode. We look forward to seeing you again next week.
On behalf of the curriculum and instruction strand, thank you so much for active participation. Wishing you a day full of positive thoughts and incredible learning experiences. For here in DepEd Teaches, our mission is empowering teachers, enabling learners. A pleasant afternoon, everyone.